Hello and welcome. I'm Karen Yarbrough, your Cook County Clerk. Thank you for joining me and us for this presentation on property fraud and managing your property after death. The Cook County Clerk's Office is one of the largest consolidated clerk's offices in the entire nation. In addition to functioning as the chief election authority for suburban Cook County, the clerk's office maintains birth, marriage, and death records. Our office also assists property owners in redeeming delinquent taxes and serves as the clerk to the Cook County Board of Commissioners. The clerk's office also has a recording operations division, which records, stores, and maintains land records and other official documents, including deeds, transfer on death instruments, as well as tax and real estate documents. Now, nobody wants to talk about death or end-of-life planning, but when you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And we all need to be aware of the threat of property fraud and how we can guard against this type of financial crime. At the Cook County Clerk's Office, we are here to serve, and we hope that this information you receive today will be helpful on these important issues that impact all of our daily lives. Now, let me introduce you to my trusty assistant who will guide us through this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin our discussion, we want to let you know that we will have volunteer attorneys available at the end of the presentation who can answer your questions about the topics we will be covering. If you are joining our program via Zoom and have questions that come up during the presentation, simply type your question in the Q&A section through your Zoom link and the attorneys will respond accordingly. Now, let's begin our discussion by talking about property fraud, which can also be known as deed fraud. So, what exactly is property fraud? Property fraud is the fraudulent and illegal recording of a document against your home's property records. We call it paper terrorism, and it's a very real problem and potential risk for all property owners. How can this happen? Almost every state has an open and public recording system, meaning that you cannot freeze your chain of title like you can your credit report. Plus, county recorders are not authorized by law to validate legal claims made in documents. Property fraud can involve the recording or filing of false or forged transfers of ownership, quitclaim deeds, or the filing of a bogus lien to steal property or harass an unsuspecting property owner. Even if your home is paid off, that does not stop someone from filing a new deed on top of it without the property owner's knowledge. Let's look at this NBC5 investigative report that takes a close look at how property fraud can occur.
By law, it is a line anyone can stand in and a fee anyone can pay. $40 is all it takes to get a deed or other document officially recorded in Cook County. A simple perk of open government openly abused by serious scammers.
I think they call them, financial parasites.
She was new to her office as recorder of deeds when Karen Yarbrough says she first spotted the trouble.
To steal a home, all you have to do is doctor some paperwork up and Photoshop it, bring it to the recorder's office, record it, voila, you own a home.
Con artists exploiting a system that relies on the honesty of those who use it, recording forged documents in order to steal a home outright. Sound far-fetched?
This is a kind of crime that I never imagined that could happen.
It did to Chicago Treasurer Stephanie Neely until it happened to her.
I get this call, I'm like, what do you mean someone has changed the name on my deed? What do you mean? How do they do that?
In her case, a stranger recorded a fraudulent deed, waited until she was at work, and then changed the lock.
They want to physically be in your house, because once they're there, it's very difficult to get them out.
Precisely what happened to this Chicago woman.
This individual had paperwork that was Xerox that showed the deed was in his name.
She asked us to conceal her identity because
you're in constant fear that they will try something next, because believe it or not, they did come back 3 days later.
One man connected to her case was arrested and convicted. As the recorder's office continued to field fake documents,
I decided that I couldn't sit idly by and watch this happen.
Yarbrough brought in this man.
They believe that the government created artificial duplicates of all of us.
An expert on sovereign citizens, the extreme anti-government movement often behind this crime.
They believe they can completely ignore our government and do whatever they want to do with impunity.
Pete Cabbage calls it paper terrorism and teaches the red flags, like the punctuation sovereigns add in the middle of names, the refusal to use mainstream addresses or zip codes, and how they employ lengthy, arcane terms. The flurry of documents they file may be fake, but their threat is real.
They're bullies. They're brazen. They think that nothing can touch them.
A lot of times they'll come in and overwhelm our frontline staff. You know, it may be 20 of them will come in.
Yarborough has a catchy comparison she uses to get a non-believer's attention. In Illinois, it is easier to steal a home than it is to steal a car.
It's fraud and, you know, they're taking people's homes.
So there is now a simple way for some homeowners to protect themselves, the free property fraud alert system. You load your property index number, then you get an alert if any document is recorded in connection with your property. Counties across the country are now turning to this kind of system as these cases of mortgage and property fraud continue to grow. Lisa Parker, NBC5, investigates.
To combat this problem, Clerk Yarborough created a property fraud unit with investigators and caseworkers who respond to and investigate any complaints of property fraud. The clerk's office also offers a free property fraud alert that will provide a telephone call or email to the property owner anytime a document is recorded against their property or the property of a loved one. There are 3 easy ways to sign up for the clerk's free property fraud alert. You may sign up in person at the clerk's office, you can sign up online, or you can sign up with a telephone call. Once registered, if you receive an alert or have a reason to be concerned about property fraud, you can contact the clerk's property fraud unit and our staff can help research the problem and coordinate a response. Call 312-603-4000 or visit our website at cookcountyclerk.com/property fraud. On a related note, while we're on the topic of your chain of title and fraud, property owners often need to obtain an official copy of their property deed when purchasing a home or for tax purposes. You should be aware there is a predatory practice aimed at homeowners in which companies offer a copy of your property's deed at a large markup price, sometimes exceeding $200. The clerk's office wants to remind you that we offer the same service on our website starting at just $5. In-person prices can range from $10 to $55 depending on the format and age of the document. So either way, there's no reason to pay exorbitant prices to gain access to these essential documents. Now, let's move on to the second part of our program, which is making plans to manage your property and assets in the event of your death. As Clerk Yarborough noted, no one wants to talk about death or end-of-life planning, but it's critical to manage your assets to protect your family and loved ones. Having a sound end-of-life plan is one of the greatest gifts that you can provide to your children and family members. Consider this. What do you think these 3 legendary individuals have in common? Prince, Aretha Franklin,
87 years ago, our fathers,
and Abraham Lincoln. Actually, they have something very unfortunate in common. They failed to make plans for their assets upon their death. No will, no trust, and no plan. Now, let's consider someone who thought he had it right. Music legend James Brown, the godfather of soul. When he passed away in 2006, Brown's estate was worth an estimated $90 million. When he died, Brown left behind a plan for most of his estate to pay for scholarships for children in need in South Carolina, the state where he was born. But that will was challenged by family members after his death, resulting in more than 12 lawsuits. It took more than a decade of litigation before Mr. Brown's assets were designated as he had intended. So how do you get it right when it comes to your property after death? The best advice is to consult an attorney or estate planning professional to provide you with advice for your specific circumstances. But you should also know that under Illinois law, you can transfer your home, your car, or your bank account to a loved one without a will or a trust, and without having to pay any fees or court costs. Here are the details on how to transfer your property. First, a transfer on death instrument. The clerk's office has a free document on our website known as a transfer on death instrument. We call it a toady. No, not that kind of toady. You can also obtain this document at no cost from any attorney or legal aid organization. The form should be completed and notarized and then recorded at the clerk's office in our Recording Operations Division. The transfer on death instrument will then be recorded on your property's chain of title, and, upon your death, the person designated to receive your property can do so after completing the required forms. Please note that the clerk's office cannot assist you in the preparation of a transfer on death instrument or any legal document. We do not provide legal advice to customers. Next, let's discuss a payable on death instrument. You can transfer the funds from your local bank account in a similar way. Utilizing a tool known as payable on death instrument, a person can transfer assets in a bank account to the beneficiary of their choosing after death. A payable on death instrument can be obtained and used at most financial institutions for checking and savings accounts, as well as certificates of deposits, CDs, money markets, and savings bonds. Even if you have completed a payable on death instrument, the account holder has full control of their funds in the account until the time of their death. When the account holder passes, the beneficiary can claim specified assets directly from the financial institution without having to wait for probate court proceedings. Finally, let's discuss a beneficiary affidavit. There is also a mechanism to transfer your car to a designated beneficiary. A vehicle owner may change, add, or remove a beneficiary on the title of their car by completing a free beneficiary affidavit through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. To obtain this beneficiary affidavit, go to the Illinois Secretary of State website at www.ilsos.gov. Keep in mind that if money is still owed on your home or vehicle at the time of your death, your beneficiary will be responsible for the mortgage and payments moving forward. On behalf of Clerk Karen Yarborough, we hope that you have found this presentation useful. The clerk's office is your first line of defense against property fraud, so we hope that you will take this opportunity to sign up for our free property fraud alert if you have not already done so. Managing your property and your assets in the event of your death is also critical to protecting your family and your assets, and to ensure that your wishes are carried out after your death. A copy of this presentation is available on the clerk's website if you would like to review it again or share with a friend or family member. Please visit www.cookcountyclerk.com/PAD resources to review the presentation. For more information on how to host a Property After Death Property Fraud Forum in your community, contact our Special Assistant to the Clerk for Community Affairs, Robin Staggers, at 312-603-3974 or email robin.staggers@cookcountyil.gov. Now let's ask the volunteer attorneys who are joining us to introduce themselves, and we will open up our presentation for your questions.